What's going on, guys? So today I got an exciting one for you. I'm going to take you into my post-processing workflow. I'm going to dive in and show you how I took this image and turned it from this into that right after this. So again, this is something I've never really done before. So if you guys like this, let me know down in the comments. I'm not going to sit here and say I am a perfect post-processor by any means. I've actually, have seen some strides in my own work over the last couple of weeks or so. So it's an exciting time for me right now. But I'm always looking for new tactics to get better, and to grow myself as a post-processor. Now, this is a big part of being a successful photographer. It's not even just, the capturing part of it, which I talked to you guys about some of those skills in the last week's episode, but it's the post-processing is really how you take an image and turn it into something beautiful, right? Often, our camera is it's collecting data when we're in the field. We're using, instruments and equipment with the sensor and exposing the scene to it. So we have something to work with, data to work with when we get back. And then from here, it's really taking it to the next level and bringing it all together and making sure the scene reflects what we saw out there in person. So I decided to do this image, honestly, because it was pretty fun for me when I processed it, because I took it from a really kind of bad starting point and then was able to turn it into something pretty cool. So I'll talk you guys through that a little bit, and then we'll go from there. So okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to work on this image from the raw level. I always capture all of my images in RAW, so it gives me the most flexibility. Now, I'll be honest, this image was actually supposed to be a exposure blended image. However, I decided not to do it for a few reasons that I'll get into later on. One thing, always make sure you guys check where your gear is before you capture a photo. Don't leave your freaking camera bag in the middle of the frame like I did. This image was taken in Sitka, Alaska. It was actually kind of towards sunset, as much as you can get towards sunset in the summertime in Alaska. And so I captured this on a beach over there, just kind of exploring with my wife. And yeah, we'll kind of dive into it. So the first thing I want to do here is I need to kind of get the base exposure set. So what I'm going to do, I'm working in Adobe Camera Raw. I actually, when I first processed this image, I did it in Lightroom, but I decided to do an Adobe Camera Raw this time. They're the same exact thing, so they just look a little bit different. So I'm going to go to the Basics tab, and the first thing I want to do is I have to see if I can pull some information from this shadow area. So what I think I'm going to do is I might start with some exposure because it's pretty grossly underexposed. I might go, right about where I can start to see some detail, but not all of it down here. And then what I'll do is I'm going to drop those highlights all the way down. I'm still clipping up here a touch in those highlights, so I might actually drop the whites down too. And then what I'm going to do now is I will pull the shadows up and about right there, and then probably pull this black point up. Okay, and then maybe some negative contrast. Okay. So, that's really not good looking at all. What I'm trying to do is balance the exposure out and get it really as flat as possible. Raw images are already naturally flat, so don't have to do too much, but I really want to take a lot of contrast away, and I'll add that contrast back in later, just trying to save some detail here. I may even go up a touch more here. Okay. Yeah, just giving me a blank canvas to work with. Now I shot this not really in good white balance at all. It's pretty orange. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cool this off. Okay, that reminds me, getting closer. Okay, and then I might add some magenta in there. Yeah, that reminds me more of what I saw. Everything was really cool and muted, and then this orange kind of horizon, so I'll pull that out later and then add some more drama to the sky. Now, I did add some noise in, of course. It's going to be noisy because I underexposed it so much. That's why I'm not really doing anything else with this image. Plus, oh, that's being weird. My camera bag is right there, so I forgot to pull the camera bag out. But overall, I like this composition, though. It's kind of got that golden ratio, swooping line with these rocks. I thought it was pretty cool. So, okay. Now, next thing I want to do is I want to play with some of the colors. But first, I'm going to go down to the calibration tab. And I usually will go down here and just kind of back and forth. I kind of like where that's at right about there. And I might boost the saturation a touch in the reds. And then same thing here. I might do that. Okay. Right about there, I think looks good. So that's a, we'll go before and after. So that's before, that's after, before, after. Just gives it a little bit more punch in the greens over here. Pulled out some of the oranges. And then I'll show you guys before and after of the basic. Okay. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my HSL, which is, oh, we can't find a color mixture. They call it a color mixture in here. HSL, I'm going to pull, really the only thing I want to do is these oranges kind of don't fit the palette too much. I kind of want to keep these, the muted tone with these like aqua gray blues and this deep green color. So this orange color down here, I don't really like. It kind of stands out. So I'm going to desaturate that a touch and leave the rest of the colors alone. And then in the detail tab, I want to go ahead and remove some noise. So I'm going to go about 13 points, question mark. Yeah, right about there. I think that looks pretty good. And then I might sharpen this up a touch just to pull some detail back in. So, and what I did there, I just held Alt on my keyboard as I was dragging through so I can mask out some of the sharpness that I added in. I mean, I don't really have an exact science to my sharpening. I usually will go really low radius and then high detail and then mask out a bunch and then put a good amount of sharpening in there. But it's usually my go-to. My kind of like beginning workflow. I'll sharpen again later, but that will definitely be a lot more selective. So, and then from here, I'm going to go, I think I'm going to do some local adjustments. I think I'm going to leave this as is. I might boost this exposure just a touch. Yeah, just a little bit more. Right about there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I actually kind of have them already put in here. I'm going to grab this and I want to kind of create a soft, almost vignette, but not a vignette because I'm using just a linear gradient here. I have it really stretched out, as you can see, just to really soften it up. But I'm going to go ahead and I want to darken this area, but I don't want to make it black or anything or really pull a lot more exposure back out of it. So what I'm going to do is actually I'm just going to take my whites and I'm just going to drop my whites all the way down. Yeah, that looks pretty good. And then what I will do now is I'm going to go up to my sky. And then I'm going to, oops, not add one of those. I'm going to my sky one here. Let's add some clarity in there. There's a lot of detail in these clouds, so. There we go. Sorry. Technical difficulties here. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and add, like I said, some clarity there. I might pull the shadows down. And then I might pull some black or some blacks. Add some contrast. That's looking good. Pull these highlights down. And then maybe even some whites too. And then maybe some positive dehaze, not a ton. And let's go down here, and I want to add, I don't want any noise in that sky, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down here and add some more noise reduction up there, just to kind of pull some of that back out. And that looks pretty good. Now what I want to do is I want to go to, I have a radial filter out here. Oh, actually, hold on. I just noticed something I didn't like. So what I'm actually going to do here is I need to add a luminosity mask to this so it's not hitting my trees here. As you see, my gradient, my linear gradient, good Lord, I can't talk, is going to be hitting my trees here, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm actually going to come down here to my range mask and add a luminance mask, and I'm just going to pull that up so I don't hit those trees with what I just did. So now that we're in Photoshop, one of the first things I like to do is I use Lumenzia. There's so many different ways you could do what I'm about to do, but I have the Lumenzia plugin. I think it's just great. It's what I use for luminosity masks and everything. But what I like to do is I'll go to this dodge area here, and then actually on this image, I'm going to hit target all because I've already made it kind of a flat image. I don't really need to target desaturated colors or anything, but what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go and I'm going to saturate this. Now that's definitely overdone, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to pull this back to about right there. That looks good. So that's before and after, before and after. It just gives me, I like it, it gives me a natural saturation. And then I can always shift click this mask here, and I could grab a brush if I wanted to with white and, you know, saturate certain areas if I wanted to, but I've done that in the past, but this image I think looks decent with a full saturation of the color. Since we manipulated it so much, we pulled so much detail out of the shadow areas, I just wanted to add some color back to it. So that was the goal here. The next thing we're going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and start dodging and burning. And I may actually, you know what we're going to do here? I'm going to do a time lapse of this so you guys don't have to sit with me for the next few minutes doing this. So here goes a time lapse. And we're back. So that's my first pass at dodging and burning here. So what we're going to do now is we'll just take a look there of the before and after, really just guiding the eye in, creating some more drama in the sky there. Looks pretty great. I could always mess with my difference, like my different blend modes if I wanted to, between soft light and overlay. Overlay doesn't look bad. Overlay overdoes the burning definitely, so I might stick with soft light. I think that looks good. So now after we dodged and burned, what I want to do is I want to add in some contrast, so more contrast. So I'm gonna go to my levels adjustment, and you see I got some room to work with on the blacks over here to the left on the histogram. So I'm gonna grab my blacks and I'm gonna pull them up slightly, maybe like 6 or 7, kind of where it's in line with where that histogram starts to go up. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here and grab my white point and pull that back. Look at this, wow. To about right about there. Let's just look what that did. Added a lot of nice contrast. But the reason I did it like this instead of putting it first is look what happens if I don't do a dodge and burn layer. Like that's it, right? It's just nice global contrast, right? It looks better, but then when I add the dodge and burn in, boom. Could also look also too if I put it above the contrast, the dodge and burn. I just really liked how this turned out, putting it underneath. I think that looks really good. And the nice thing about why I like Photoshop is for like these contrasts and stuff is I feel like I overdid that. I could just come in here and pull the opacity back. Okay, or I could come in here and I could change the blend mode or whatnot, right? I can do a lot in Photoshop, which is nice. It's very non-destructive, which is great. But I actually think I might pull this levels back to like 75. Because I don't want to do this. I don't want to overcook it early. Again, there's the dodge and burn off and on. There's the contrast off and on. This is the dodge and burn without the contrast. And then this is the contrast without dodge and burn. Like, they really do work well together. Really guides our eye in there, which I really like. So next thing I want to do to help guide the eye is I want to sharpen this. So I'm going to go Control-Shift-E to paste a merge visible layer again. Then I'm going to go Control-Shift-U, which I believe is Command-Shift-U on Mac. Again, don't quote me on it. I'm going to go back up to a filter up here, and then I'm going to go to Other and High Pass Filter. I'm going to zoom into where that rock is. And I just want to have just enough pixel radius where I can see the details in the rock. I don't want to be like this. I don't want that. I want just enough where I can just see some details like those cracks there. That looks good. Click OK. Now what we're going to do is go to our blend mode, and I'm going to add a soft light blend mode. And that looks really good. Okay. Again, looking at this rock, it's very subtle. That's before, that's after. Might work better over here. Before, after, just a nice subtle sharpen to it. Now the next step is I don't want to sharpen this water, so I'm going to do is I'm going to click a mask here. Got a white mask on. I'm going to go Control-I to put a black mask on, which just hides that sharpening we did. Now with a white brush, I can come through and I can brush in that sharpening in the areas that I want it to be in, which is on the top of this kind of lighter spot of this rock here. I got a 55% flow or opacity on this brush, so it's not a very high opacity brush. There's that. Before, after, before, after. I might add some here, some here, some here, some here, some here. Add it on some of these trees and this grass. Oh, hold on. Don't do what I just did there. Make sure you're on your mask before you start brushing. Good Lord. I was like wondering why I'm not really seeing the effect working. And it's because you're brushing on the layer level. And the reason I did that is I don't want to, because again, there's a lot of noise in this image because of how underexposed it was. So if I sharpen globally, I'm just sharpening noise, especially up in the sky up there. So I want to keep that sky soft and glowy almost. And then from there, I want to use sharpening now with my dodge and burn layer and my contrast layer to help guide our eye towards that horizon. So I don't need to sharpen the water or anything. And that's one of my tactics I use there. So now what I want to do is really draw our eyes into this area here. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go down here. I'm going to select a gradient. I'm going to go to a gray gradient. There's one in here I really like. It's this steel blue and white for this image. I'm going to switch it to a diamond. Kind of put this diamond in that horizon area I thought it was in. Might scale this up a touch. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Click OK. I'm going to go to my blend mode, and I'm going to go to soft light. Look at that. Really gives it a uniform color. Now, it's definitely overdone a little bit, so I will go pull the opacity all the way down, and I will slowly creep it in till it kind of does what I want it to do, which is about right there. Adds that steel blue into our shadow areas and then brightens up the highlights, and that diamond gradient really draws our eye in. It looks really cool. Learned that trick from F64 Academy and Blake Rudis, so shout out to him for teaching this technique. I think it looks really good, just draws the eye in. But what I want to do is not that. I want to click this mask that it automatically creates for me, and I want to pull it out of here, this area. So I'm painting with a black brush. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this. It's all about guiding my viewer's eye. Okay. Now look at that. See, before, after, just pulled it off of there so it really doesn't, like this again, pointing. I'm pointing to this TV screen like you guys can see it. TV screen, monitor screen, good Lord. So this area right here is now really pointing towards here. It's not being lost in that blue. It really helps stand out in a supporting cast kind of way. So the next step we're going to do now to continue to guide our viewer's eye is I want to really, really color grade this thing and add some more. I mean, I just did, but add a little bit more. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go gradient map here. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click my gradient, and I want this bluish gray gradient here. Now, the only thing I do want to do is I want to reverse it, right? So I don't want the bright colors in my shadow areas. I want the bright colors where they're supposed to be in the shadow areas where they're supposed to be. And then what I'll do is I will go down and I'm going to select a hard mix blend mode. I'm going to take the fill down to about 15%. And then now I'm going to pull the opacity down to about right about there. That looks good. Very subtle. Adds a little bit of contrast again. Now let's look at those two together. Kind of my color grading. And I may actually even go in this gradient map and pull some of this rock out of that gradient map. Just gives me a little bit of eye guidance. Yeah, let that rock stand out just a touch. Perfect. Okay, and the last step I actually am going to do, even though I did all this cooling and color grading, I am going to actually go, I don't do this all the time, but I'm going to go to a photo filter and let it add a warm photo filter in. Look what that did. Took all those gray colors and just, oh, I just really like how this turned out, right? I may pull this down just a touch. Again, the beauty of Photoshop, I can just pull things down. I love how this turned out. Really gave it orange warmth on the horizon line, and then all these blue steel kind of vibes. Then it pulled those oranges back in, but they're definitely in the palette of my color palette here. So that is it. That is the whole processing of this image. So if you guys enjoyed it, please consider hitting the subscribe button, hit the like button, and that bell icon to be notified when I post new videos. I'm trying to post new videos every week. So this is something new. If you want to see me do more post-processing videos, let me know down in the comment section below. Other than that, you guys have a good one. Peace out.